Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Sky, like the big blue sky, and today I'm going to go over our customer discovery framework. And so, for context, this is the framework that we use to do research on prospects. Whenever we have a sales program that isn't working, we'll hop on the phones and we'll adjust this script in a like cold calling fashion to try and get some insights. And so, before we dive in, just as a note, the script is a foundation. You might have other questions related to your business that you want to ask, and it's for a cold call. So we do customer discovery sometimes where you reach out and you schedule those calls with prospects. It's harder to get those calls booked than it is to just like connect with someone and try and get the insight from them live on a cold call. But you can obviously go deeper on like a scheduled call where they know they're showing up to like just sit down and answer your questions as opposed to just like straight up cold calling them. So this is somewhat short. And I'll go over the structure in just a second, but I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that you might get shut down on some of these. So the structure of the call is important to try and get people in the mode of answering your questions, but then also making sure that you front load some of the most important questions. But I think the best thing to keep in mind here is that you've got specific outcomes that you're shooting for, right? So whenever I'm doing this, I'm trying to identify what are the biggest problems that my prospects are facing with some specific topic in their business or the day to day. And I really try to take note of the language that they use to describe those problems. And so I will have like different versions of this sheet up as I'm calling. And in between each question, I'll be taking notes on exactly what they're saying so I can try and use their exact language and the way they talk about their problems and the solutions in our copy when we reach back out. I want to understand how they're currently trying to solve those problems in their mind, what the best solutions are or options to solve those problems that they know of, and then what kind of offers or pitches they're currently receiving, not even just in general to solve those problems, but just like what are they most frequently being pitched and what do they think of those pitches. So final piece before we dive into the script. Question number one, in terms of the structure, it's just like a softball. I found when doing this that you get the most compliance with just like answering questions and getting good answers if you kind of give them a little gimme at the beginning just to get them talking and in the habit of answering your questions. But then after question number one are all the questions that I want answered most. So it's like this question that almost doesn't even matter at the beginning. It's just such an easy question to get them talking. And then from there, I go into like the harder hitting questions. And it's important to like kind of have this 1-2 where it's like the first one is easy and then you go into your harder questions because it is a cold call. And some people are going to be like, I don't have time to keep talking to you. And they just they hang up. And so you want to make sure that you try and front load some of these really good questions that you want answered before they do potentially just end the call with you. And then I think the other really big thing to keep in mind is that to get really good answers, you want behavioral flexibility and you want to be aware of what the prospect is saying. And so what that means is that you can't just like follow your script. Your script is there as a framework, but the best questions are going to come from directly what the prospect is telling you and not necessarily your script. So you need to listen, be able to ask follow-up questions and go deeper, just foundational sales stuff as it is. There's some structure in here to help you with that if you need that help on like how to go a little bit deeper on questions, and we'll talk about it. But before you start calling, I would just make sure that you understand like what order are you asking these questions in, why are you asking the questions in this order, and just kind of internalize it so you can know where you're at in the conversation and be able to like direct things, go deeper, really think and listen instead of just like kind of going from script to script to script to script to script. And when you do that as well, the prospect feels more heard, understood, like it's a genuine conversation, and they're a lot more likely to hang out with you and talk if you are like actively listening and asking good follow-up questions as opposed to just being robotic and just spitting out the next question. So, okay. The script is really easy, and I think the stakes are low on something like this, right? So if you're like afraid of making cold calls or a lot of times folks who do a lot of email, they don't like the phone. And so I also kind of want to preface this with like there are such low stakes in this kind of scenario. You don't need to book a meeting, you just got to get someone to talk to you. So I wouldn't have any attachment to the outcome. It's not a huge deal. Just run through the script, try to connect with people, have fun with it, and I think you'll be surprised with the insights that you get. So first things first, I always confirm that I'm talking to the right person. So ring ring, hey, Mike, little like inquisitive tone. And then once I know I'm talking to Mike, then I'm like, hey, Mike, this is Sky. I'm doing a brief survey on med spas in Houston. The more specific you can get here, the better, and the more compliance you're going to get with actually going into the questions. I was hoping I could ask you a couple really quick questions about your business and send you about your day. Some people might be like, what is this for? Just tell them what company you're from, what you do, let them know that you're trying to get insight on how the market is doing because you guys build solutions to help the market out. And then from there, we go into the questions. And so question number one that I typically use is like, what trends are you seeing in the med spa industry right now? Blah, 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 blah. And then boom, we start going into our like more important questions. And so one of my favorite ones is, what's the biggest problem you're currently facing in your med spa right now? What's the biggest problem you're currently facing in your creative process? Whatever that is for you, just insert problem that you solve for this avatar, this prospect, into the area where it says personalize. And now from here, the indented questions, these are meant to help you go deeper. And so these are follow-up questions, right? They tell you, oh, I'm having a lot of trouble getting new patients into my med spa. Depending on what they say, it might not make sense to be like, why do you say that? They're like, because I need to make more money, dude. I need to like keep my business going, right? So you wouldn't ask that as a follow-up question. You might follow up with like, got it, super interesting. What have you tried so far to try and get new patients in the door? So you're asking a follow-up question with context predicated on what they told you, right? So you got to kind of like be aware of again and think about what they're saying, pick the right follow-up questions. Cool. Has it worked well? Why do you think it hasn't worked well? What are other ways that you could potentially solve this problem? How much would you pay to have this problem solved, right? So all these questions might not work for you, but the point I hope that you're seeing is that like the all of business is about solving problems. So I like to start there, and then we just start to go deeper, 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 depending on the question and what information we're trying to get. Another one from there. So it's like, cool. I'm sure at your med spa you get a ton of cold emails in your inbox on a daily basis. What are some of the most common like pitches that you're seeing in your inbox for? So this is for another client. Personalize. For agency services, for a new med spa technology, whatever it is that you provide or the problem that you solve. What are the most common pitches that you're getting? What do you think of companies like that? What do you think when a company says, if you don't get a million calls and you don't pay? What's your perception of that? Would you ever be interested in buying a service like that? What type of service would you buy that helps you solve XYZ problem that you already asked about? How would they have to offer how would they have to structure the offer to make it a no-brainer for you? Like, what would the conditions be to where you would feel stupid saying no to someone emailing you about bringing in new patients to your practice? So follow-up questions. What are your top 3 daily frustrations? And this is an interesting one because like sometimes you will get super BS answers here, but what we're trying to get at is like into the mind of the prospect, like what, and it's not even just in a business context. It might be stuff going on at home, and as you start to call more and more and more and more and more people in the space, you'll start to notice these patterns. And so these are really good questions to take note of as you're going. And if you get service level answers, it might be helpful also to like challenge someone a little bit and ask the question a different way. So if you're like, what are the top 3 daily frustrations? They're like, I don't know, man. Just getting new clients. You're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, but let me try asking this a different way. Let's say you're laying down to go to bed, you're trying to go to sleep, but there's something on your mind about your business that you just can't stop thinking about. What is that thing? Right? And give them a little bit more context to ask it a different way. It might be the same thing. What are your goals? What books do you read? What other influencers do you follow? These are just other example questions. Maybe from like a advertising targeting perspective, this is useful, not just for cold outbound, but there's a bunch of other different questions that you can ask here. Some people are only going to answer like these first couple questions. Some people are going to sit there and talk to you for like 30 minutes if you let them. So up to your discretion if you just keep going deeper and deeper on these questions. I hope this has been helpful. The post, if you're watching this from the post, the example client that I was talking about, they were a full service agency, and one of the services that they provided was video for like social media. And one of the things that we found when we were calling med spas in this example was that one of the common things is that all of them were super interested in Instagram just as a platform, but then they were also interested in having really high quality short form content like reels style content, and using that to like generate business and get appointments. And so what we did is we took the feedback from these customer discovery calls, and then our pitch in the cold email, it wasn't about the service or anything like that. What we did is we looked at what were all the top performing short form content pieces in the space, whether it's on TikTok and Instagram reels, and then we consolidated that into like a like a lead gen offer. And it was just all the top performing content pieces, and that is what we sold in the email to get the conversation going. So we knew what kind of platforms they were already on, how many followers they had. So we were able to make some observations about their current social media presence and tailor the copy to them, whether or not they like don't have a social media presence at all. This is a really easy way to get started. Steal these content ideas. Or just knowing here are the top performing ones that you guys can use on your page to get more views and blah, blah, blah. And so we put that together, and then we sent that in the cold email personalized based on what their social media following was, and then we were able to from there turn the replies into conversions, add people to the different subsequences, and yeah, this was a super helpful process for us. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. If you have more questions, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Let me know if you're having trouble customizing this to you. But other than that, that is all I got for you. I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.